Okay, once again, a new episode of AI's Hits. So like every week, I will look at a photographer, famous from the past or the present, as an excuse, as a pretext to see where AI is going in terms of understanding photographic style. So as usual, I talked about using other tools, but I'm not ready yet. But I'm going to use ChatGPT for the bio, the information, and Dall-E and Midjourney to illustrate. So, yeah, AI, could you please tell us a little bit more about the photographer?
1. Early life and beginnings. Robert Capa was born Emiliano Friedman on the 22nd of October, 1913, in Budapest, Hungary. As a teenager, he was politically active and faced persecution for his leftist views, which eventually led him to relocate to Berlin in 1931. It was in Berlin that he began his career in photography, working for the Deffert agency.
So the first pictures, again, as usual, I ask AI to give us an illustration of someone that looks like the photographer behind his camera taking a picture and a photo in the style of that photographer. And as usual, Dall-E understands what it means to be behind the camera, it seems, while Midjourney tends to separate subjects and human subjects, actually animal subjects too, when there's eyes. I feel like it's always trying to separate the gaze of the subjects, and well, it doesn't make really sense. It's always holding, when there's a function of the eyes, it doesn't work out. But anyways.
2. Pseudonym and collaboration with Gerda Taro. In Paris, after leaving Berlin due to the rise of the Nazi regime, Friedman met and fell in love with fellow photographer Gerda Taro. The two decided to work under a single pseudonym, Robert Capa, creating a fictional American photographer whose work was much in demand. This move was strategic to increase the value of their photograph. 3. Spanish Civil War. Capa's reputation was significantly established during the Spanish Civil War, 1936 to 1939. One of his most iconic images, known as the Falling Soldier, captured a Republican soldier at the precise moment he was shot. This photograph remains one of the most recognized images of war. 4. World War II and D-Day. During World War II, Capa was there for many of the major events. He was with the Allies during the North African Campaign, the invasion of Sicily, and most famously on the beaches of Normandy during D-Day. His series of photographs from that day, often called the Magnificent 11, are some of the most iconic images of the war, despite many of the original negatives being accidentally destroyed. 5. Post-war and Magnum Photos. After the war, Capa co-founded Magnum Photos in 1947, an international photographic cooperative, along with Henri Cartier-Bresson, David Chim Seymour, George Roger, and William van der Voort. The organization became instrumental in redefining photojournalism, emphasizing the importance of the photographer's perspective and voice. 6. Later life and legacy. Tragically, Capa's life was cut short when, on the 25th of May, 1954, he stepped on a landmine while covering the First Indochina War in Tay Binh, Vietnam. He died at the age of 40. Despite his brief life, Capa's legacy as one of the greatest war photographers remains undiminished. His axiom, "If your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough," reflects his commitment to capturing the raw, intimate moments of conflict.
As for the illustrations we get for the bio, it's always illustrations based on the history. So it doesn't really mean it's going to be really like the photographer in terms of style, but it gives a good idea, I think, of the basic understanding of AI, the way it has been trained and how it renders. And here I think, while Dall-E has, as usual, I feel more subtlety in the composition, Midjourney is super crisp, always hyper realistic, and it kind of adds this Midjourney glare style, which I feel is too much. So I'm not sure I can really find on all those pictures the photographer's style coming out. Maybe the war photos, but still it's very clean on the Midjourney side. Dall-E is a little bit more subtle. And yeah, not that sure it works out. Also, something of importance, I think, Dall-E tends to when there's text, like advertisements or things in the scene, it tends to create those weird words, and that's kind of weird. Wondering if it's actually a proprietary language AI is trying to build. Anyways, we don't have the answer here, but still interesting to see what comes out. As for the original, for the educational purpose, let's quickly look at a few examples of Capa's work. And as we can see on those photos, it can be the photos from the Spanish War with this fallen soldier, which is pretty well known. There's actually two of them. It's been a debated photograph, and historically you can go search online and check this out. Or the D-Day photos, quite famous. The style of Capa is pretty strong, I believe. Also the famous painters or artists, and some color photos. He did some color photography, but really interesting just to compare to see what's coming up next. So as we have AI at our hand, at our disposal, could you, AI, please tell us more about the style of the photographer?
1. Immersion and proximity. Robert Capa's style is defined by his deep commitment to immerse himself in the action. His famous mantra, "If your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough," reveals an approach that prioritized intimacy with his subjects, ensuring he was always at the heart of the event.
Yeah, here we have the same problem as I was saying before, and I've been saying that for a few weeks too. I don't feel the AI tools are really progressing in terms of their database, and that makes sense. I don't think they're going to update it all the time. But here, definitely, I think Midjourney is too clean, too hyper-realistic. It doesn't really represent the style of the photographer. Dall-E is more subtle.
2. Authenticity and rawness. His images resonate with an unfiltered authenticity, shunning the temptation to stage or embellish. Capa sought to document the truth of a scene, even when that meant showcasing its most brutal or painful elements.
Once again, not sure what's going on here. I definitely wouldn't say it's Capa looking. Obviously, we're going into black and white photography, so there's some kind of understanding that his work is in majority in black and white. Even so, we saw he does some color photography.
3. Humanism over heroics. While war itself is vast and overwhelming, Capa's focus often zeroed in on the individual. His photographs frequently highlighted the human side of conflict, the bravery, vulnerability, fear, and resilience of both soldiers and civilians, emphasizing the personal rather than the purely political or strategic.
Here again, portraits, always a little bit too tight. The framing is too tight with Dall-E these last weeks and months since the update where you can extend the canvas. So I think the results from Dall-E definitely took a hit from that time on. Even so, there were added functionalities, and Midjourney is too clean, in my opinion.
4. Intuition and timing. Capa had a remarkable ability to sense and capture pivotal moments, making many of his photographs iconic. He didn't just document events, he encapsulated their essence, often in split-second decisions that relied heavily on his keen intuition.
Here also for the war photography. Not sure what's going on the Dall-E side, but it's definitely more subtle in its composition and illustration. While Midjourney, it's always this kind of very heroic and very cinematographically composed illustrations. I think I'm going to start calling them simply illustrations.
5. Dynamic composition. His compositions, often dictated by the unpredictability of war, conveyed a sense of movement and urgency. This dynamism, combined with his preference for working in the thick of things, resulted in images that were both visceral and compelling.
I think on the Dall-E side, it's definitely taken into account the movement, the motion blur that can be part of a photograph. And I think it's super interesting that it does understand that. And actually, this picture on the left, I think, could work with some of, thinking about the D-Day photos, for example, some of Capa's work. As for the picture on the right, really nice composition, but I think it really lacks the subtleties of going beyond something really hyper-realistic, very crisp.
6. Legacy in photojournalism. Beyond the specifics of his style, Capa's influence can be seen in the evolution of war photojournalism itself. His approach, characterized by its close-quarters intimacy, emphasis on human stories, and unwavering dedication to truth, set a new standard for how conflicts were documented, influencing generations of photographers to come.
Also, I kind of like when there's those photos, inside photos, when there's exhibitions or things like that, because it does actually bring us some information we wouldn't have otherwise. If the photos in the photo have to be of the style of the photographer, how does the machine understand that? And I think here Midjourney is doing a pretty good job. We could actually wonder if it, maybe I'm pushing it a little far, but wonder if it's the photos in the photo of Midjourney don't look like some of Capa's work. As for Dall-E, it's more weird. I wouldn't say it looks like Capa's work. It's too how would I say, too black and white, and doesn't look very much like his work in general. Too much dark areas. But yeah, as we have AI at our disposal again, and a virtual Robert, let's ask for custom creation as usual. And could we have a picture of soldiers walking back from the terrain of war, looking tired but relieved, in an eerie landscape with old vehicle carcasses? So here we're going to regroup the pictures. Dall-E first, the first 4 pictures, and then Midjourney. The Dall-E pictures, again, we're finding this more subtle way of composing things. Not sure the vehicles look like carcasses. They look there, that's it. Not sure it looks like a terrain of war, beside the fact that they actually could look like soldiers. And I'm not sure it understands what it means coming back from, on the picture on the left. Again, for the 2 next pictures, not sure what the point of view is, but why not? But definitely more subtle than what we're going to get next with Midjourney. So here, really nice compositions. Maybe the picture on the left could look like some of Capa's work, but again, I think everything's too crisp, too clean. There's some color in the results. Not sure we see any carcasses here, but definitely eerie landscapes of war. The next 2 pictures. Here we do have carcasses on the left and probably on the right. This works out a little bit better. And the landscapes too. Maybe the picture on the left could belong to Capa, but still I think it's too crisp. Same thing on the right. And obviously it's more, there's some feeling of really going beyond the subtlety of what could be the scene of war. It's a little bit exaggerated, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's not like this in the real fields, but it's always, Midjourney seems to always look for the more exceptional situations. Anyways, hopefully that was entertaining for you. Please go check the real work and the real information online in books and in museums or galleries, as it's a fantastic photographer. And yeah, catch you next week. Don't hesitate to post comments, suggestions, questions, and yeah, catch you next week.